Next. I always try to assist to the class. I always try to assist to the class. This is a false friend between Spanish and English. Because some students will say, oh, sorry, I couldn't assist to the class. But this is incorrect. Because in English, to assist someone is a more formal way of saying to help them. Like, how can I assist you? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of British English Pod. And yes, it's Lewis here once again. And I need to tell you that it's a pretty depressing day here in Brussels. You see, I look outside and it's cloudy, it's dreary, it's dark. You know, it's been raining for the last couple of days as well, which makes a change because just a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, it seems like spring has arrived here. Well, it didn't last long. It definitely didn't last long at all because, as I said, it's depressing today. And I thought I could use this to go over some common phrases and phrasal verbs to say that it is raining a little bit and it is raining a lot. So are you familiar with any of these phrases? What I reckon you are already familiar with is probably it's raining cats and dogs. Yes, the typical expression. It's raining cats and dogs, which means it's raining a lot. It's raining heavily. But to be honest, this isn't very common. It's not very commonly used nowadays. Of course, you can use it, and it's kind of a funny expression if you imagine that cats and dogs are falling from the sky as if it was raindrops. But it's not as common as the options I'm going to tell you now. So first, if it's raining a little bit, just a little bit, we say it is drizzling. It's drizzling. But also, it is spitting. It's spitting. You know, like you could spit. It's spitting. But then if you want to say that it's actually raining a lot more, we have loads of options, loads of alternatives. Off the top of my head, I think the most common one is it's pouring or it's pouring it down. Oh, it's pouring it down outside, which is actually the reason why I'm recording this podcast at 9 o'clock in the morning, because usually at this time I might go to the gym or go for a run to get out of the house. But no, it's pouring it down. So I thought I might as well record a podcast. So that's one option. We could also say it's pissing it down. We could also say it's chucking it down. We could also say it's lashing it down. And we could also say it's bucketing it down. So those are options which you'll hear much more often than it is raining cats and dogs. But anyway, enough about the rain. Let's think positive thoughts. And tell me, what's the weather like where you are? Where in the world are you watching or listening to this podcast from? And what's the weather? Hopefully, it's better weather than here. And I'm sure it is. Because here, you know, given that it's grey, dark and dreary, the bar is set quite low. So I'm sure the weather is much better where you are compared to where I am. And let me know, how's life? How are you doing today? I'm doing all right. As I said, it's early in the morning. I've just had my second coffee of the day. So the caffeine should kick in soon. A nice phrasal verb, kick in. To kick in means like to start to have an effect. So if, for example, you have a headache and you take an ibuprofen or paracetamol, then it usually takes about half an hour before the effects start to kick in. The same with a coffee. You don't immediately feel very, very energetic, but after maybe half an hour, the caffeine starts to kick in. So hopefully it will, and I'll start to wake up. But let's get started with the topic. Enough of me nattering on, speaking about random things. Because this week, in my private classes and my group classes through the British English Immersion Club, we've been doing a bit of revision and going over some of the most common mistakes in English. I mean, basic mistakes with prepositions, mistakes with the order of the sentence, and some more advanced mistakes with phrasal verbs, for example. So, in this podcast, I'm going to be walking you through the PowerPoint that I prepared and I taught with my students this week. If, as always, you are interested in having classes with me, whether it's group classes or private classes, there will be a link in the description. And if you don't have time or you can't be bothered to have classes, well, you can also download my application, English with Lewis, which is available on the App Store and Google Play. It's completely free to try. And, well, if you want to test out the premium features, you can do it completely free for 3 days as well. So, what are you waiting for? Give it a go. Check it out. And if you're already using my app, well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, on to some common mistakes. And we'll start with some relatively easy common mistakes. And I'm going to say the incorrect phrase, and I want you to try to think and see if you can correct it before I do. So the race is on. Are you ready? Steady? Let's go, go, go! The first one. I'm struggling. I need some advices. I'm struggling. I need some advices. What's the error? How can we correct it? Well, in this case, advice in English is uncountable. Therefore, we can never say advices with an S. So the correction would be, I'm struggling. I need some advice. I need some advice. Other options would be to say, I need some pieces of advice, if you wanted to make it countable. Or a common synonym, which is countable in English, is tips. I need some tips. Please, give me some tips. I'm struggling. That's the first error. Moving on to the second one. He's bored. I don't want to hang out with him. Let me repeat. He's bored. I don't want to hang out with him. He's bored. What could the correction be? Well, if you don't want to hang out with someone, it's usually not because they are bored, because bored is how they feel in that moment. What we should be describing is someone's permanent personality. So the correction is as follows. He's boring. I don't want to hang out with him. He's boring. I don't want to hang out with him. No way. Good job. The third error. Let me read it. Excuse me, can you explain me this? Excuse me, can you explain me this? I guarantee that some of you have said this before, because this is arguably the most common mistake of all. Can you explain me this? Ew, ugh, no way. The correction is, can you explain this to me. Let me explain that. Because in English, we never say, explain me, explain him, explain her. What you could say is, can you explain this to me? So explain something to someone. Or can you explain it to me? So remember, in English, when we use explain, you have to say explain something to someone. Excuse me, can you explain this to me? I'm sure you've made this mistake again. But I reckon this is going to be the final time you ever say, can you explain me? Let's hope so. Touch wood. Fingers crossed. Next up, the fourth common error. Ready? Turn the volume up. It isn't enough loud. Turn the volume up. It isn't enough loud. Enough loud. Sounds weird, doesn't it? So when we use enough, we need to be aware of what order it goes in. The correction here is turn the volume up. It isn't loud enough. It isn't loud enough. I can't hear it. So when we use enough, it goes before if we have a noun after. Enough money, enough people, enough opportunities. But if we use an adjective, the adjective goes before enough. Loud enough, old enough, intelligent enough, and so on and so forth. Thumbs up. Good job. Number 5, the fifth common mistake. Ready? You should go there. It definitely worth it. Ew. You should go there. It definitely worth it. Now this is common as well. Many people make mistakes when using the phrase to be worth it because they don't remember to use the verb to be. Like, I was born, he was born, she was born. So here, what's missing is the verb to be. So the correction is the following. You should go there. It is definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. It's so worth it. You should definitely go there. Awesome. All right. Now the sixth common error. I tend to avoid to eat junk food. I tend to avoid to eat junk food. What could the correction be? Well, the error is using I tend to avoid to eat. Avoid to eat? No. After avoid, we need ing. So, I tend to avoid eating junk food. I try to avoid eating junk food, but it doesn't usually happen. All right, and one more, and then we'll move on. The phrase is, we're going to United States on holiday. We're going to United States on holiday. Something's missing here. And the same thing happens with the United Kingdom. So the correction is, we're going to the United States on holiday. Whenever we speak about the United Kingdom or the United States, we always need to add the States, the UK. So we're going to the United States on holiday. Good job. All right. Give yourselves a little round of applause and a pat on the back for focusing and paying attention to these common errors. And I reckon my caffeine is kicking in, and it is still pissing it down. It's still pouring it down. It's still bucketing it down. It's still lashing it down. What a shame. Hopefully the sun will come out at some point. But from there, we're going to continue with something that people struggle with, and it is prepositions. I think prepositions are among the hardest things in any language, not just English, but in my experience learning French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. It's always a bit of a guess, a bit of a lottery when it comes to picking the right preposition. Because most of the time, there isn't a rule, there isn't a guide. It's just hearing something enough so it sounds natural, and then you can repeat it. So, unfortunately, for these phrases, I can't give you any rules for why we use certain prepositions. If we were speaking about prepositions of time or prepositions of place, I could give you some guidelines. But for the following ones, it's just prepositional phrases. So all you've got to do is try to memorize them, to learn them off by heart. To learn something off by heart is to memorize it. So what I'm going to do is share my screen again, and you're going to see some prepositional phrases that are missing the prepositions. And you have to guess the correct preposition. That said, are you ready? Shall we keep going? Let's do it. The first one is it depends. It depends. What preposition do we use? Easy. It depends on. It depends on the weather. Next. The same. The same. What preposition is missing? The same as. I have the same laptop as my friend John. We have the same laptop. My laptop is the same as his. Next, similar. Similar. What preposition is missing? It is similar to. I could say that my videos are similar to my friend Alex's. We have similar videos. Mine are similar to his. Next, easy. It's close. It's close. It's close to. My flat is close to the city centre. It's near to the city centre. After that, focus. Focus, your job. Focus, your job. What preposition's missing? Focus on your job. Right now, I'm trying to focus on completing this podcast. Because, my podcasts are all natural. I don't really edit them. So I've got to really focus on what I'm saying. Next, I went out, night. I went out, night. We have in the morning, we have in the afternoon, we have in the evening, but the exception is at night. I went out at night last weekend. And this one's true. My birthday is September. My birthday is in September. If we have months, it's always in. In January, in February, in March, in April, in May, in June, in July, in August, in September, in October, in November, and in December. Next one, a question. What are you doing, Saturday? What are you doing on Saturday? What are you up to on Saturday? What are your plans on Saturday? A tricky one. I'm responsible. I'm responsible for a team of 10 teachers, for example. I'm not anymore, thank God. All right, good job. Well done. I reckon that was a piece of cake. I reckon that was a walk in the park. So knowing that that last section was a little bit easy, I thought we'd move on to some phrasal verbs. Yoo-hoo! Phrasal verb time. Can't wait. And to begin with these phrasal verbs, we have 5 different conversation questions. So I'm going to read the conversation question and quickly answer it. And then after that, we will review these phrasal verbs. The first one is, what are you looking forward to doing in the near future? What are you looking forward to doing in the near future? And remember, common error, look forward to plus ing or a noun. Well, I would say that something I'm looking forward to doing is going on holiday. I'm looking forward to going on holiday. And I'm looking forward to going to Seville in a month or 2. I'm looking forward to being in Spain. I can't wait. I'm excited about doing it. That's something I'm looking forward to doing. The next question. How often do you eat out? And when was the last time you ate out? How often do you eat out? Well, honestly, not that often. I think at the moment, because I'm busy teaching my group classes in the evenings during the week, I very rarely eat out during the week. I hardly ever eat out during the week. But at the weekend, I sometimes eat out. And it depends where you live. If you live in a country where it's very cheap to eat out, then it's normal to go more often. I used to eat out more when I lived in Spain. But nowadays, I don't eat out very often. Maybe once a week. Something like that. And the last time, well, when was it? Last weekend. Last weekend, I ate out when I was back in England. I went to a pub and I had a pie and a pint with mushy peas and gravy. And gravy is that meat sauce. It's delicious. The third question. What signs tell you you might be coming down with a cold? What signs tell you you might be coming down with a cold? And let me explain this, because to come down with is to start to feel sick. Usually with minor things, a cold, a fever. And I think the most common signs that tell you you might be coming down with a cold are when you wake up, and when you wake up, you feel exhausted, shattered, knackered. And it's in particular when you wake up with a blocked nose or a bit of phlegm in your throat, but then during the day, it goes away. That's a sign that you're about to come down with a cold. And then your immune system starts fighting it off and trying to keep it away from you. This is what happened to me maybe a couple of weeks ago. But luckily, I never really got a bad cold. It was just a minor cold. So that is a win for my immune system. Good job. Now, the fourth question. How old were you when you moved out of your parents' house? how old were you when you moved out of your parents' house? Well, I visit my parents quite often, as you will see from the videos I make with my mum. But to be honest, I haven't permanently lived at my parents' house since I was 18 years old. Because when I was 18, I moved out of my parents' house and I went to uni. I went to Liverpool and I started living independently. So I was 18 years old when I moved out of my parents' house. And a bit of British slang. You might hear someone say, my rents. I moved out of my rents house. It's not that common, but some of my friends used to say, I'm at my rents this weekend, which is a shortened version of parents. My rents, my parents. So I moved out of my rents house at 18 years old. And the fifth phrasal verb is, what things have you grown out of? You know, something you used to do, but you don't do it anymore because, hopefully, you've become more mature. You've grown up. So what things have I grown out of? I would say video games. Playing video games on the PlayStation or Xbox, on my laptop. This is something that I grew out of more or less when I went to uni. Because at secondary school, when I was doing my A-levels, before I went to uni, I used to do a little bit of gaming. And I'd put my headset on and I'd speak to my mates and we'd play Call of Duty or FIFA. But to be honest, since moving to uni, I haven't really played video games. The only one that I've played since then has been Football Manager, which is where you simulate being a football manager. And during the pandemic, I played a lot of Football Manager. When I should have been maybe recording podcasts and starting making videos, I was playing Football Manager. So I think now I've become more mature and more sensible, and I've grown out of these things. I'm not saying that playing video games is a bad thing at all. I think it's amazing. It's so fun. But I haven't got time for everything. So this is something I decided not to do. It's something I grew out of. Awesome. So there we had some phrasal verbs. Now, to keep practicing these phrasal verbs, we've got a short dialogue. So it's a little chit-chat, a conversation between two people. On my slides, you can see A and B, which is a bit boring. So let's call them Anne and Ben. So it's a conversation between Anne and Ben, and it's going to use each and every one of these phrasal verbs. So listen and enjoy. Ready? Let's get started. So, what are you looking forward to doing in the near future? Honestly, I'm really looking forward to taking a short trip somewhere sunny. Work has been busy, so it'll be nice to relax. What about you? I'm looking forward to moving to a bigger flat. I actually moved out of my parents' house when I was 21, but now I'm thinking about finding a new place again. That's exciting. Living on your own really changes minds. By the way, how often do you eat out? Not that often these days, maybe once or twice a month. The last time I ate out was last weekend with some friends. We tried a new Italian restaurant. What about you? I probably eat out a bit more, maybe once a week. Though, when I'm busy or tired, I prefer to stay in. Actually, I think I might be coming down with a cold right now. Oh no! What makes you think that? My throat feels scratchy, and I'm starting to feel really tired. Those are usually the first signs. Yep, that doesn't sound great. By the way, are there any things you've grown out of recently? Definitely. I used to stay up playing video games all night, but I've grown out of that now. I prefer getting a good night's sleep. All right. So Ben is just like me. So that was a little recap. Hopefully you enjoyed that mini dialogue to keep hearing these phrasal verbs in context. Because personally, the best way to learn phrasal verbs, idioms, expressions is by repeating them and repeating them and repeating them over and over again. And also, I would encourage you to try to review in your own mind different advanced words and phrases that you hear. Because I remember when I was a teenager and I had a little part-time job and I was studying Spanish at the time. And this was a very, very basic level of Spanish. But when I was cycling around the neighborhood delivering newspapers, I would try and remember some words and phrases that we studied in class. And I think it was a good, practice, a good method, because the more you repeat something and the more you try to remember, the more likely it is that you will learn it off by heart. So my advice, remember, advice, uncountable, or one of my many tips, countable, is when you're, traveling, driving, at the gym, walking, even trying to fall asleep at night, I'd see if you can remember some phrases that you heard me using on this podcast, or that you heard on a TV series, or that you read in the news. Just try to quiz yourself, test yourself to see if you can actually remember new words and phrases that you keep hearing. Practice makes perfect, and the more you see and use words, the more likely it is that you will actually be able to use them in the future. But now, the topic is about common mistakes, so let's do another one of those slides related to common errors. Just like I did at the beginning of this podcast, I'm going to read a common mistake a couple of times, and I want you to try to correct it. Hopefully, you can think of the correction before I tell you it. Sound good? Yeah? Does that sound okay? Let's do it. The first one. Do you know where does he live? Ugh. Do you know where does he live? Here we have an indirect question, which we looked at just a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. So the correction is, do you know where he lives? Excuse me, do you know where he lives? Yeah. He lives just down the road. Awesome. Next. They didn't see nobody at the event. They didn't see nobody at the event. They didn't see, negative, nobody. These two do not go together. So, there are two possible corrections here. You could say, and this would be the most common option, they didn't see anybody or anyone at the event. Because if we have didn't, negative, then we need any. They didn't see anybody at the event, or they saw nobody at the event. Because saw will be positive, and then we can use nobody. Easy peasy, right? Next up. I've been living in Brussels since 4 years. For example, I've been living in Brussels since 4 years. Since? I could say since 2022. But if I use 4 years, which is the duration, we need a different word. So the correct answer is, I've been living in Brussels for 4 years. For example, it's less in reality. But yeah, 4 and the period of time. Good stuff. Next up. This is more easier than the last class. This is more easier than the last class. Ugh. This is a basic error. I'm sure just hearing me saying the incorrect phrase is grating on you. It's getting on your nerves. So the correction is simply without more. This is easier than the last class. It's much easier, a lot easier, way easier, far easier. Next. I always try to assist to the class. I always try to assist to the class. This is a false friend between Spanish and English. Because some students will say, oh, sorry, I couldn't assist to the class. But this is incorrect. Because in English, to assist someone is a more formal way of saying to help them. Like, how can I assist you? But if you want to say that you are going to class, we use attend. Therefore, the correction is, I always try to attend the class. I always try to come to class. Next up, my boss has a 3-year-old daughter. A 3-year-old daughter. No. But this one's a more advanced correction. Some of these have been a bit basic, but this one's quite a tricky one. And you see, we could say, my boss's daughter is 3 years old. That'd be a nice way of paraphrasing. But if we want to continue with the same structure, we don't say a 3 years old. We need to convert this into an adjective. So what we do is put a little dash, a hyphen between 3 and years, and also between years and old. And the years becomes year, singular. So the correction would be, my boss has a 3-year-old daughter. A 3-year-old daughter. I could say, I have a 10-year-old cousin. I have a 50-year-old uncle. And so on. Good. Next one. He's married with his soulmate. He's married with his soulmate. In English, we don't use with after marry. The correction is, he's married to his soulmate. He's married to his soulmate. And one more common mistake. It took a long time to get used to live here. It took a long time to get used to live here. So when we use be used to and get used to, be accustomed to and become accustomed to, we also need to use ing or a noun. So the correction would be, in this case, it took a long time to get used to living here. When I moved to Spain, it took a long time to get used to having dinner so late. It took a long time to get used to turning on the air conditioning all of the time. So, be used to or get used to, always followed by a noun or ing. Well done. Well done. If you're still here, Thank you so much for paying attention. And I'm sure this has been very useful for you, particularly if you feel like you make some common mistakes in English. But we're not done yet. Almost, but I'd like to finish off with 5 more phrasal verbs, because I think most of you listening to this have quite an advanced level of English. I'm sure you do. So what will be most useful for you isn't necessarily the common mistakes, but more so the phrasal verbs. And of course, just listening to me and perhaps shadowing my pronunciation. Now, I'm not going to share my screen for this last section, but I'm going to read out some more conversation questions, including phrasal verbs, just like before. And the first one is, if you forgot your partner's birthday, how would you make up for it? If you forgot your partner's birthday, how would you make up for it? To compensate for it. Well, if I forgot my partner's birthday, which would never happen, of course, I would make up for it by, organizing a trip away. By organizing a lovely weekend away. I might do that in the first place, but if I forgot my partner's birthday, I definitely need to book a trip away to make up for it. That way we could spend some quality time together. The second question. Would you be interested in taking on more responsibility at work? Would you be interested in taking on more responsibility at work? And take on responsibility, take on work, is to assume it, to accept it. Honestly, I don't think I'm capable of taking on any more responsibility. I'm already swamped. I'm already snowed under. I'm already so busy. So I haven't got time to take on more responsibility. Yeah, I already take on so much. So right now, it's just not doable. It's not manageable. I'm working so much as it is. So I cannot take on anything else as things stand. Third question. Who can you count on to tell you the truth? Who can you count on to tell you the truth? Who can you trust to tell you the truth? I think most people in my circle, I don't think people are going to lie to me. They're not going to tell me any lies, any fibs. FYI, for your information, a fib, F-I-B, is a way of saying a lie, but it's in a more informal way and a more British way. So my family are not going to tell me fibs. They're not going to tell me lies. So I think I can count on all of my friends, family, and fiancé to tell me the truth. Number 4. Do you need to head out and pick up anything from the shop today? Do you need to head out and pick up anything from the shop today? Yes, I definitely do. And I'll tell you what. Because I have run out of loo roll. I've run out of loo roll, meaning I have run out of toilet roll, toilet paper. So maybe after I record this podcast, I'm going to head out and pick up some toilet roll. Head out means to go out, and pick up means to get or to buy in this context. So yeah, hopefully it'll stop raining, and then I can head out and pick it up. Now, the fifth question. When you look back on your youth, on when you were a child and a teenager, would you change anything? When you look back on your youth, would you change anything? I don't know. They say that everything happens for a reason. So for that reason, maybe it's best not to change anything. If I went back in time, perhaps I would make the same decisions that I have made up until now. As I've mentioned on the podcast before, maybe I wouldn't go to university because of student loans and student debt. But hey, I made those decisions and everything has worked out just fine up until now. So, no regrets. I wouldn't change anything if I could travel into the past. All right, good job. Now, to finish, I'm going to read out one more dialogue in the same way as last time, using these phrasal verbs. So let me just share my screen for people who are watching this podcast whilst also listening, and you'll be able to read as I am reading it out loud. Ready? We've got A and B again, so Anne and Ben are back again. Hey, do you need to head out and pick up anything from the shop today? Yeah, actually. I need to pick up some milk and bread later. I'll probably head out after work. What about you? I might go too. By the way, imagine you forgot your partner's birthday. How would you make up for it? Oh, wow. That would be bad. I definitely have to make up for it somehow. Maybe plan a surprise weekend trip or cook a really nice dinner. That's a good idea. Hopefully, they'd forgive you. Speaking of work, would you be interested in taking on more responsibility? Possibly. If it meant learning new skills or getting a promotion, I'd be happy to take on more responsibility. But it depends on the workload, too. True. You need a good balance. At least it's good to have people you can count on at work. Absolutely. I have a couple of colleagues I can count on to tell me the truth, even if it's not what I want to hear. That's important. And when you look back on your youth, would you change anything? Maybe I would have studied a bit harder or traveled more. But honestly, those experiences helped me grow. So I probably wouldn't change much. I wouldn't change a thing. And there we have it. With that, let's wrap up this week's podcast. Let's finish with this week's podcast. As I said at the beginning, and as always, this is a PowerPoint from my group classes, the British English Immersion Club, where you can have classes with me and discuss different topics every week. So if you're curious and you'd like to check it out, then there's a link in the description. And if you haven't got time for classes, but you still want to improve your English with my resources, then you can download English with Lewis on the App Store or on Google Play. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching, and hopefully for learning. And I'll see you in a few days. Bye-bye.